Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys football. Heading out to the Pac-12 to take a look at a Utah Utes team going on the road to a team that burned us last week, the UCLA Bruins. This was my take on that UCLA Washington game was I thought Washington was a proven commodity and we knew they were good. UCLA hasn't really played anybody. They quite frankly haven't looked good when they played bad teams. And I was like, Washington's covering 2.5 points. It's a lot. And UCLA comes out, and Bill, you mentioned this on the preview last week. They game up. Like, DTR is one of those quarterbacks that if he catches fire, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the whole entire conference, maybe even in the country. You just need to see that more at a consistent basis. Before we get into this preview, though, just wanted to say thank you guys again, per usual, for all the support you guys have shown. If you do like the content, consider subscribing. Let us know in the comment section what your guys' takes are on this game. And again, we really do appreciate the support you guys have shown. Dill, I'm going to kick it off to you. I have a feeling I know what your take is going to be. Hit us with it.
This game's got me a little tied up here. I would have thought, like, if you asked me at the beginning of the season, I'd be like, Utah be favored by 20 points, taking to cover it.
Yeah.
But I'm like conflicted on what UCLA is because I'm very conflicted on what Washington is. I feel like a lot of us built houses on Washington being really good because they beat Michigan State. But now, I think Michigan State might be one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. So I'm not sure if UCLA is good or if Washington is really, really bad. So I think Utah's good. You saw how they played against Florida, and ever since then, they've been beating the wheels off teams. But I think this is a huge litmus test for Brian Kelly and this UCLA program to see where they are exactly.
That was a take that I wish I stuck by. When Utah lost that heartbreaker to Florida, I said, take Utah to cover the spread against every team that they play. And they literally have covered the spread the last 4 straight games following the loss in Florida. And I didn't bet a single one of them. I'm an idiot for that. Now, I'm kind of with you. This Washington team, like, how good is Washington? After their only real big, impressive win comes against Michigan State, who seems to actually stink. This UCLA team, my take on this game is I'm not betting it. I'm watching this game as a fan because I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. But these are two of the more complete teams that we see on offense in the Pac-12 and, quite frankly, in the country. They both are scoring around 42 points per game. They both run or they both pass. I mean, UCLA is averaging almost 300 yards through the air and running at a 213-yard per game clip under DTR and Zach Charbonnet. There's not a lot of holes in this UCLA team, and that's something I'm not really used to saying. That's something I'm more used to saying about the Utah Utes. I think you're seeing two really, really good football teams playing in the Pac-12, and it's going to be a really good game.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this offensive matchup for UCLA. I think you saw what you could expose Utah a little bit was big run plays, which is what Florida hit them with. And I think a lot of that was because you had an athletic quarterback in Anthony Richardson, who was a problem for UCLA. Obviously, we all came away from Utah. Sorry, we all came away thinking like, "Ooh, this is a Heisman style player." Obviously, he's had some bad moments in the season since then, but that athleticism and the explosiveness from their running backs, especially ETN, was clearly a problem. And I think you're going to face that same issue because Charbonnet is really good, and so is DTR, and they run the offense with the RP or read option kind of system really effectively.
Yeah, this offense, what I saw from DTR, and my big thing was I think Washington State is going to be able to get UCLA in some 3rd and longs and be able to get off the field. Washington got some 3rd and longs, and DTR stood from the pocket and delivered some really nice footballs. I mean, he's averaging 75% completion percentage over the first 5 games. He is everything that we've been waiting for DTR to have. Like, it is seemingly kind of click in his last year of college football. This is a guy that I'm not very excited to bet against. And then you look on the other side of the ball. How does Utah's offense stack up against the UCLA Bruins defense? It's a UCLA Bruins defense that coming into the summer, I wasn't that excited about. I didn't think there's that many playmakers on that side of the ball. I was wrong. I mean, Latu is 6.5 sacks, 6 tackles for a loss. I really like what I've seen from Mo Osling. I mean, the Murphy brothers, the Murphy twin brothers, shout out the twins. They've also been really good. This UCLA team can get in the backfield. They can create negative plays, and they also take the ball they turn the ball over a lot on defense as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm looking at what Utah can do, and they're not running the ball nearly as good as they had been in the past. I think Thomas is only averaging 4.4 yards. Cam Rising, in fairness, he has been very effective running the ball, but he's not doing it a whole lot. Only carried it 23 times. So I'm a little concerned with the production they're getting out of those running backs, just because that was such a big part of what they did last year and why they were able to beat up teams in the Big 12. So I don't think you want this team to be one-dimensional in any way, because obviously you're down Kuthi, and I don't think they have a ton of weapons, period, without Kuthi. So I think that's what I don't know what to think. I don't know that I know this Utah team is moving the ball, but they're not moving it in the way I think suits this Utah team to do it when they're really good, and that's being really physical and pounding on people.
Okay, so let's get to the picks. Utah comes in as a road favorite at -4.5. Now, the over-under is actually quite high. I didn't really know what the over-under is. It is sitting at 65 points. My lean here is not a side. You said it best. You asked me 4 weeks ago before the season started, Utah's going on the road to UCLA and you're spotting them only 4.5 points. I would be hammering Utah preseason. What I saw from this UCLA team is a team that I do not want to bet against. They bit me in the butt on Friday night. I'm not going to bet against UCLA this week. That being said, that 65 points I think is a lot for two really good defenses taking the field. I get both these offenses are good. They haven't played that many good defenses. I think both these defenses in this game are good. I think both teams are going to want to try to run the football. I think you're going to see the clock go by pretty quick. My lean would be to the under 65 points, but again, with two really good quarterbacks, I don't feel great about that. I think this is one of those games where I'm kicking my feet up and I'm watching as a fan because this game is going to be really good.
Yeah, and this just feels like a monster spot for Chip Kelly.
Chip Kelly? Oh, yeah.
I feel like you haven't seen maybe the type of big wins yet. They haven't really nudged into that top echelon of the Pac-12. I think as Utah is obviously there. We all know that. And I think they're going to need a big game. The one thing that does worry me for sure is Utah. I just don't know if they're going to be able to throw the ball as effectively as they could against a kind of a weak defense in Washington, at least in the secondary, because that team, they don't tackle. They weren't playing fundamentally particularly sound. So if they're not going to give up those big plays that I think Washington was, and I don't see Utah doing that, I'm kind of with you on this under. I think they might be able to hold each other down a little bit because, again, on the other side, UCLA can play it and they take the ball away.
Yeah. I don't think there's any official pick that I would give out. My lean would be the under, but this is going to be a good game. And I would like to echo what you said about Chip Kelly. He's done a phenomenal job with this UCLA program. I think he's recruiting well. Like, the teams are more competitive than they were when he took over in the Pac-12. But you are waiting on him to kind of have this big win where you're going to jump into potentially the top 10 after this week, depending on some other results. That's something you haven't seen from the UCLA Bruins. They've kicked it around with some good teams in the Pac-12. They haven't gotten over the hump. This is a game where they win this game. I think you kind of consider them over the hump. And this is a massive spot for the UCLA Bruins. And it's a big spot for Utah.
Yeah, and it just puts them right in there with the big dogs from the Pac-12, where I think UCLA wants to be, where I think, frankly, they need to be a relevant program, because people obviously just don't care about UCLA unless UCLA is really good.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. I think it's going to be a big one. I'm excited for it. And again, we appreciate you guys checking us out. And if you do like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We will talk to you guys later. Peace.